So this next speaker we have is Nick Psaila. And really, Nick is a mindset coach, he's a business coach. First time I met Nick, I was absorbed by his enthusiasm, his knowledge, and his energy. He's someone that doesn't let people wallow in that place after things happen. Because things happen to all of those people that I just showed you up on the screen there. So it's not the event, it's our response to the event and how then we move forward after that. Do we stay down, do we get up? So Nick's here to talk to you about upology. He's just spent 1 month in the States going all across America giving this presentation to rooms much bigger than this. So I'm very grateful for Nick for taking the time. He's only been back this week. He's already had 3 other gigs before coming down today. So what I'd like you to do for the next hour is just suck up Nick's energy, learn as much as you can, and there's a new book put up, Upology, that Nick's going to tell you about. So please, if you wouldn't mind standing up for all our speakers and put your hands together for Nick Psaila.
Thank you, man. How you doing? We good? Down in the gong's a good thing, right? I have to tell you, I've been away in the US for about a month, as he's saying. I've had the pleasure of speaking to thousands of people in the US. I've been on a speaking tour, but I have to tell you, it's good to be back on our soil, right? Aussie, 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 yeah? Let me tell you, we're giving them a bit of a run for the money as well, right? I had to speak a lot slower when I was in the US too, because I just don't get it, right? So, which is great. So look, I'm really honoured, obviously, to be here amongst you all. I'm, as Steve's saying, what I do is I'm a holistic business coach, and I work with businesses exactly like you here. I've had the great honour and privilege to work with so many great people, and hopefully for the next hour I'm going to give you an idea on, the research that I've done and the things that I've learnt throughout my years of development. But enough about me. So what we're going to be speaking about today is upology. So I want to share with you this. Regardless of who you are, or what you are, or what success means to you, in order for you to be successful in life, you have to understand that you need to tap into your fighting spirit. And I can tell you, as Aussies, we've all got the fighting spirit. Just show of hands how many people believe that. Yeah, exactly. And the fighting spirit I want to share with you is in our DNA. It's actually a part of what makes us human. And what do I mean by fighting spirit? I want to share with you that the research that I've done with thousands of business owners throughout the world always brings me back to the same denominator. That in life, we're going to take a beating. How many people here have ever had a beating in life? Emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. We all have this, right? And I've worked, as I said, with businesses all over the world. And what I keep on seeing once again is every time that you take a beating, right, you've got the ability to change. Now, what do I mean by a beating? A beating comes in all forms, shapes, and sizes, regardless of who you are, whatever status that you may have, where you think you are, how much money you've got, they're always the same. And a beating looks something like this. I asked the girl of my dreams to marry me, and she says no. I work on a project for 2 years, only for it to fail. I open up a business, and 12 months later, it's done. Well, the worst part of a beating is I have a death of a loved one that rocks my world. Now, I can tell you I'm nobody special, and I'm probably not one of those guys that's born with a silver spoon in their mouth. How many people know what I'm talking about? Everything that I've had to do up until today has always comes hard for me. I've got to work really hard at it. I've got to do things. Most importantly, what I want to share with you is if you've got the ability to dust yourself back up stand up straight, and have another go, it means that you've gotten through a beating. Does everybody understand this? Show of hands. Yeah. So what I'm going to share with you today is a methodology of understanding how you can have a really successful business life and a really successful personal life, because the two combine together. Now what I want to share with you is every time that I've taken a beating, what I've managed to do is not only tap into my fighting spirit, but what I've managed to do is look at heroes. And heroes for me don't necessarily come with a cape, and they don't come with a mask. Heroes for me are everyday, ordinary people, and most of the times, the heroes that I tap into don't even realise that they're heroes. And that my hero that's helped me through time and time again is my sister. And this is my sister here, her name's Josephine. This is with one of her sons, James, and that's with her husband, Ray. And what I'm going to share with you is some people take beatings in life, and unfortunately they don't recover. So if you're in business and you've taken a beating in life, if you don't recover from it, it's always going to keep on affecting your business, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But I'm going to share a little bit about somebody that's taken a beating that influenced my life drastically. And that person is James here in the middle. So my sister's also got another son called Paul. He's not in this photo. So James was born, and he was born with thalidomide. Does anybody know what that is? So basically it's shortening of the arms. And he was also born with a hole in his heart. And that hole in his heart, you could pretty much drive a truck through. So within 24 hours, he's taken his first beating. He has to have open heart surgery. This is back in the 80s. Open heart surgery. And he's born this way. So my sister takes a beating. You can imagine. Anybody got children in here? You can imagine when your kids are born, or one of the kids is born and there's something wrong with it, automatically that's going to affect your life for the rest of its natural days. So fast forward a little bit and he starts growing up and he's okay, but he's starting to realise, that things aren't exactly the same, right? He's still playing around with kids, but kids, have got a little bit of a snicker and a little bit of a sticker here and there. And he's starting to realise that things are a little bit different. Fast forward a little bit more and now he's in his early teens, so he's excellent at school, year 11 and year 12. Year 11 and he's excellent at school, things are going really well, he's a brainiac. But he keeps on looking in the mirror and he's realising that things are not only different, but nothing's ever going to change unless you can grow a pair of arms. Right? So he keeps on taking this beating, and one day he realises that what he most wants in life is the affection of a woman. Now when you're 17 or 18, what you want to do is not only fit in. I mean, if you've got a pimple on yourself, it looks like it's a major drama, right? And he's trying to fit in anyway. Cut a long story short, he finds somebody. So he brings her home to my sister and they welcome her with open arms. And she decides to say, okay, let's go over to our parents, her parents. And he gets there and the dad opens the door, the family opens the door, and they walk him in and he sits down. They have dinner. And about 10 minutes after dinner, the dad pulls him over and he says, come over here, James. And he says, let me tell you one thing for certain. He said, you'll never ever go out with my daughter. He goes, because if something happens and you guys decide to fall in love and have children, they're going to turn out like you. Now you can imagine what that does to somebody at the age of 17, right? Everybody can understand this, right? So he takes another beating, but guess what? He gets back up, dusts himself off, and keeps going. Remember, it's the human spirit that I'm talking about. Fast forward a little bit, and now he's 22, 23, and he's chronically depressed. I was coaching at the time, and there was literally nothing I could do. He said to me, if you could grow me a pair of arms, then I'll understand. The one thing is that he just couldn't find love. Because his idea of, being successful, remember I said to you, regardless of whatever success is for you, his idea of success is being with somebody, so he could never do that. Fast forward a little bit more, and has anybody ever had a certain time that it seems like time's completely slowed down? Has anybody ever had this? Just a show of hands. And you're not quite sure why you're having this moment until later on. Has anybody ever had this? Yeah. So I remember this is Easter Sunday, and we're hanging out at my sister's place. And I'm from a log family, as you can probably understand, so there's about 3 million of us there, right? And we've got enough food for about 7 million people, right? And I remember this. I remember sitting down, and there's a screen door here to the backyard, and James is standing over here. He's actually kneeling down. And I'm sitting here just on the couch and looking at it, and everything starts slowing down. I can't figure out why. And he's talking to my son Philip, that's about 4 at the time, he's about here. And when you get a glimmer of hope to somebody where you go, you know what, I think he's turning a little bit of a leaf here. He's starting to get things happening and he's starting to get a bit happier in life. Because you can imagine when you're chronically depressed. Has anybody ever been chronically depressed, by the way? right? When I was counselling, like, I've seen hundreds of people that have been depressed. It's a tough hustle. So he's sitting there and I can see everything kind of slowing down. I'm trying to figure out, why am I having this moment? And I can see a glimmer of hope in his eyes, and he's talking to my son. And I go, you know what? I think he's going to be okay. The next day, his brother Paul reached me. So it's Easter Monday, about 4 years ago. And it's when it was bucketing down rain. I've never seen rain like that for some time. And he says, James has been involved in a car accident. You better come to the hospital. So I'm figuring, how bad could it be? Maybe they picked him up in an ambulance. So I drive there and I get there. So I go up to the hospital and I said, look, I'm here for James. And normally, at the hospital emergency ward, usually what they do is they say, why don't you just sit there and we'll come and get you when the family comes, or we'll get somebody. So I see the lady coming around and she opens the door and she goes, come straight in. And when I see somebody saying, come straight in, at an emergency ward, it's usually not the best of things, right? Does everybody get this? Yeah? I walk into this room, and have you ever noticed, some things that you're meant to remember, for whatever reason it is, and it's one of these places. The walls are green, the lino is green, and there's that smell, that smell in the hospital, that chemical smell, right? And he's there, my sister's there, his brother's there, and my brother-in-law's there, and we're waiting, I'm saying, what happened? They go, we don't know, they've brought him in an ambulance, but we're not 100% sure what's going on. About 5 minutes later, a copper walks in, and the paramedic. And he said, look, obviously his son's been involved in an accident. And he says this one interesting question to my sister. And he said, Josephine, he said, do you believe in God? Right? And I'm like, why is he asking this? He said, because you better start praying to your God, because we've got 10 doctors working on your son. And you can imagine what type of a beating that you take when something like this is what you're hearing, right? And by now, James is 24. So they go back out, and they said, we can't tell you exactly what's going on. They go back out, and about 15 minutes later, that felt like 3 hours, we're there freaking out. A doctor walks in, completely full of blood. And he comes up to my sister and he says, I'm sorry, your son hasn't recovered from this. He's gone. So 24 years old, my nephew's dead. It's interesting in life what you do. Remember I said to you, I look at people that are heroes and they don't necessarily need to have a cape and they don't necessarily need to wear a mask. Fast forward 3 or 4 days, we go to the funeral and there's 1,500 people at the church. The priest walks up to me and he says, was James a celebrity? I said, no, he was just an everyday guy. Now, this is the same person that believed that he was worthless in life because he didn't have his arms right. And he believed that nobody cared about him. 1,500 people. I've never seen that many people in my life. There was more people outside than there was inside in the church. And anybody that's got children here knows that you shouldn't bury your young, right? So we go to the funeral, there's about 1,000 people there. We do what we need to do. Family's devastated. It's a personal beating that I've taken. And about a week later, I write a letter to my sister, feeling guilty that it wasn't my son, feeling guilty that she had to go through all this heartache. So remember I said to you, it's about tapping into the fighting spirit. And I said to her this, I asked this question, I said, Joe, gave her the letter and I said, Joe, how do you get up again and keep going after your son's died? And she says this to me, I can either get busy trying to live or I can get busy dying. So I'm going to share with you, whether you're in business or regardless of what you've got in your life, you need to make a choice. I want you to write that down. You need to make a choice in life. Whether you're either going to get busy living or you're going to get busy dying, that's up to you. Now, I want to share with you some of the beatings that I've had. So, I remember when I was 13 years old, right, I'm at a blue light disco. Anybody been to a blue light? Show of hand. Geez, all you guys are pretty bloody old, eh? So I'm there, and do you remember at that day there was the latest hit out, and I can tell you it wasn't Britney Spears and it wasn't Madonna. Who it was, has anybody ever heard that song, Oh Mickey? Oh Mickey, right? So I hear boom, boom, right? And all night, I've been checking out this blonde bombshell across the other side of the room, and I'm there with three of my mates. And finally, I muster up enough courage to go and ask her for a dance, right? I'm 13. So I walk up, there's this song, right? I had hair, by the way, then. Right? So I walk up to her, and I go, do you want to dance? And the music's really loud, and she goes, what? I said, do you want to dance? And she goes, what? I said, do you want to dance? And have you ever noticed that the music stops at the worst bloody possible time? And she leans back, and she leans forward, and she goes, I don't dance with wogs. So here's me, a beating and a half, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, right? At 13, this has just rocked my world. So I try to rewind back, right? Try to be mystical about it, and all my mates are going, what the hell's going on? I said, she just hurt her ankle, she couldn't be doing nothing, right? And I'm going to tell you what that means in a little while about putting all the things in, putting all your eggs in one basket. So fast forward a little bit, and I'm at my year 10 graduation. My parents are there, my sister's there, all my mates are there. And I go up in the year 10 graduation. I went to a Morris Brothers school, right? So it's a priest, that's the brother, right? I'll never forget this, his brother John. So in year 10, so this is early 80s, should have said early 90s, but early 80s. So I walk up, right, and he comes up, and he grabs my hand, and he pulls me in close. There's no word of a lie. Pulls me in close, and he grabs my hand, he goes, shake my hand. So I'm shaking his hand. I'm 15, trying to figure it out. And he goes, mate, you better leave now. He goes, because you're hopeless. You're never going to be anything. Right? And make sure, he goes, and turn and smile. Make sure you smile for the camera. So we take a shot, and I'm like this. So I'm walked down, shaking. Everyone's patting me on the back. And my parents are proud. Now, as far as I understand in New South Wales, you need a license to drive a car, don't you? But you don't need a license to be a dickhead like this guy. So you can imagine what this done to me at 15. Is everybody starting to understand what beatings are about? Right? So what I want to share with you is, I took that. Remember I said to you, you've got a choice. You've got a decision of what you want to do with that decision. And what I wanted to do is, I figured out that I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to not listen to what Brother John had to say to me. So what I wanted to do was figure out a word or something that I could become, right? Something that I could do that will change my life forever. Take those beatings and start to learn more from it. So the first thing I examined was, did I want to become a psychologist? Now, have you ever noticed psychologists, what they do is they try to analyse something in your mind, and then try to analyse that, and then somebody else analyses that stuff, and it's this whole kind of analysis, and nobody's really getting anywhere. So I go, for me, a psychologist wasn't the way to go. So then the next thing I go, you know what, maybe I thought about becoming an archaeologist. But then I realised, an archaeologist, all they're doing is they're digging in the dirt, right? All day digging in the dirt. And if I was going to do that, I might as well be like my Lebo mate that's got some tip chops to make some money out of it, right? So I go, that wasn't for me. And then the third thing, I thought I'd become a proctologist, but then all those guys, all they're doing is looking up your work, right? So I go, that's not going to be for me. So guess what? What I decided is I wanted to become an upologist. And an upologist means that I've got the ability to look at everything from the upside. Now what I want you to do is, I want you guys to join me. I want you to raise your right hand like this. The reason being is I'm going to make everybody a temporary upologist. Are we okay with that? And here's what you got to say. I swear that I will look at everything from the upside. Put your hands down. Now, in other words, you guys are all temporary apologists today. And all you have to do is, you don't need a university degree. All you have to have done is go through the school of hard knocks and get yourself back up again, dust yourself off, and have another go at it. Are we okay with that? Show of hands. So now we're all temporary apologists, right? Now, it's interesting because once I've done that, once I did that, I thought, you know what, I'm an apologist here and there's going to be no problem, things are going to be cool, and I've got it down pat. But remember I said to you that beatings come in all shapes and sizes, and most of the times they come when you're least expecting them. Have you ever noticed that? You've got a good run in life and you go, things are good, boom, something happens. So about 5 years ago, I've got a wellness centre, one of the best wellness centres in Australia, and I'm there with my business partner. And 6 months into it, I go on a holiday for a week. I'm working 100 hours plus a week in this beautiful, luxurious centre. I built it from the ground up. And 6 months later, he waits until I get back. He sits in the office and he says, "I'm done." And I go, "What do you mean you're done? Are you done for the day?" He said, "No, mate, I'm leaving you." I'm like, "Where did this come from?" Now, you can imagine when you're in business partnership, it's like you're in a relationship, right? Every day I saw him. 7 days a week, most of the times. And he said, "I'm done." He said, "And also what I want to do is, mate, I want $500,000 for it." Now, 6 months into it, I've mortgaged my house. I've got $250 into it at least. Right, we've got clients and bills, right, everything else that you have with the business. And 6 months into it, he walks out. Anyway, cut a long story short, what we do is we figure out a deal and I start paying him. 6 months after that, he's not happy with it, and I get a knock at the door. And I open the door and a guy hands me a subpoena. And he said, "Mate, what we're about to do is liquidate this business. You've got 14 days to come up with $500,000. My wife's pregnant with our second one. I've got bills coming through everybody knows, right? And I'm trying to figure it out. Now, remember this, half of the money that came in through him is gone. So I'm trying to figure it out. Now, I've got 15 people working for me. It's a big centre, and I'm trying to figure it out. So cut a long story short, I said, "You know what, mate, I just can't do this, so I'm going to sell it." So we end up selling it. We figure it out. Bank takes my house, takes all the money that I've got, because now I'm behind on the repayments, and I'm completely broke. And I remember this. Remember I said to you that certain moments in life are here to define us. Show of hands, remember that? So I move out of the house, and I'm standing there. I don't know what it is with green with me. And I'm standing in this little shoebox that we rented, right? And the carpet's green. I don't even know what the hell they're thinking with green carpet, right? And so everybody's saying this, the carpet's green and the bathroom's pink. What the hell's that about, right? I don't know. I think in the 60s everyone's way too much, or they're dropping those little acid tabs or something, right? So I'm standing there and I'm going, how did this come to this? I've got a beautiful house that was renovated, all the rest of the stuff. I've got no money. And I remember I said to you, there's defining moments in life, and I go, what do I do now? I've got no money, no job, I'm trying to figure it out. And I remember kneeling down to my son, and I said to him, I said, "Philip, it doesn't matter where we are in life, the home is us. It's not these four walls." Now at 4 years old or 5 years old, he's not really understanding it, right? But I just wanted to make sure that certain beatings in life, he understands what they're about too, right? We move the environment from a nice house to this shoebox. And I remember standing there and I said, how am I going to put food on the table? So I ring my brother-in-law, I said, "Paul," I said, "Mate, can you spot me a couple of $100 because I've got no money to put food on the table." And an interesting thing happened right there and then. I said, "Is it time for me to become a victim or a victor?" I want you to write this down. You've got a choice whether you want to become a victim or a victor. It's up to you. And it's the defining moments that you're going to have in your business that are going to keep coming to you. Remember, beatings come with, regardless of shape, size, how much money you got, or where you think you are in life. And it's at those defining moments that I'm going to share with you a methodology that's going to allow you to move through that. And what I did then is, it was time for me to draw a line in the sand. So I remember talking to my wife and I said to her this. I said to her, never again will we have to be in this situation again. Less than 5 years ago, I was flat broke with no money, money owing to the bank, a business that was failed. And I stand as a testament here in front of you. I've been all over the world. I've launched my new book. I'm going to give a few copies away and then give all of you guys a copy. I've stood in front of thousands of people sharing my message. I've got a highly successful coaching business. I speak all over the world, and this is what I do. You know why? Because at that defining moment, what I did is I stood back up again and I said, I'm never going to become a victim anymore. It was time for me to change. I went to uni and I studied change management on my way to an MBA. I studied with some of the best guys in the world. Why? Because I knew that it was time for me to change and never ever do that. So I'm going to ask you today, actually I'm going to tell you today, that from this day on, never again can you bury your head in the sand. The reason being is I've just told you. So it's up to you what line in the sand that you do. As business owners, like I said, I work with business owners all over the world. One of the major things with business owners is they never set out to do what they say they were going to do. How many people, just a show of hands, want a mediocre business? Anyone? How many people want to kill a business? So I share with you, when you leave from here, what is your line in the sand? When is it that you say, never again will I be mediocre, but I'm only the best that I can be? Because if you're ready for that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a methodology, and these are the upology principles. Remember, you guys are all temporary apologists now. So it's time that you start looking at things from a different way, and it's time that you start looking at things from the upside. Why? Because if you look at things from the downside, the computer opens up and it just gives you everything that's negative. If you look at things from the upside, you've got the ability to change. And here's the 3 principles. Number 1, it's about attitude. What's your attitude every day? I've got a simple motto with attitude. As long as I'm standing up straight and I'm breathing air, it's a great bloody day. Anybody agree with that? It's a great day. How many people do you guys know that it doesn't matter what they've got, it just seems like it's this whole big bloody drama? How many of these guys do we know? You want to hear an interesting story? When I was 15, I think less, I was 13 or 14, the guy across the road from us won the lotto twice. I've never met anybody who won the lotto twice. It was like a bloody Dalai Lama. So I go there and he's got a beautiful red Porsche out the front. Now a 13-year-old and a red Porsche in the 80s, I'm like, man, this guy's the Messiah. And I remember this is no word of a lie, right? So he's hosing away. And man, I go, how you going? And he's kind of got this, shitty look on his face. I don't know what it was for him. You start talking and he goes, I said, I know that you won the lotto. He goes, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. This is no word of a lie. He goes, you wouldn't believe it. Second time, there was 5 other people that won it and I only won 250. Now, 250 grand back in the 80s after he's won the mill, I mean, we're talking, serious bucks. I mean, you buy a jet for that. Does that make sense? So I want to share with you, every time that you're hanging out with somebody that's a life trainer like that, check your attitude in and say, mate, you know what? Thanks, I appreciate that, but it's not me. Does that make sense? Is everyone cool with that? Right? You guys are all apologists now, yeah? Now, the most important thing is your attitude is your altitude. However you approach something every day in life, so what I do, as soon as I wake up, in the morning, I give gratitude. I want you to write that down. You should give gratitude for all the great things in life that are about to happen to you during the day. I can tell you I've met some incredible people. I hang out with some of the best people on the planet. You know why? Because you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with. You can hang out with shitty guys or you can hang out with good guys, up to you, right? Now, the next thing is you've got to have a plan. I can't tell you how many business owners I speak with that have got no plan. I mean, how could you ever do anything if you don't have a plan? Guess what? You had a plan here. Remember I said to you, all the eggs in one basket. When I walked up to that girl and she goes, I don't dance with wogs. Guess what? That was all eggs in one basket. I didn't have any other strategy. I can tell you 1,000% that in business, forget plan A, forget plan B, you've got to go all the way to, if I was in America, I'd go plan Z, all the way to plan Z. You know why? Because things change. In businesses, things ain't what they used to be. How many show of hands there, right? We've got to try to figure it out. So it's important that you've got a plan. And number 3, most importantly, you've got to do the work. You know how many people want success, but they don't want to do what success is? Remember, 5 years ago, I'm flat broke. Today, I speak all over the world. I get paid handsomely, and I've got a killer coaching practice. Steve knows who I am, right? So it's about doing work. Now, it's interesting because you can either talk about it or you can do it. So all of you in business can either talk about it or you can do it. It's up to you. So let's talk about attitude. Now, most people, if they're not an apologist, in the past they get stuck in it. They can't do anything about it, right? In the present, what they do is they go, mate, I can't change anything. Because they're never looking at things from the outside. And most importantly, in the future, they go, it's set in stone. How many people do you know that? My mum had this, my mum had cancer, her mum had cancer, so that means I'm getting it. That's bullshit. It's genetically in us. That's not true at all. I mean, research shows that they've had twins that they've put them in 2 different spaces and they suffer different conditions. So, in other words, when you take accountability for your action, you can change. Now, as an apologist, I look at it differently. So, as all temporary apologists, guess what? The past, you can learn from it. Do you reckon I've learned that I'm part owner in companies, I sit on boards of companies? Do you think I've got partnership agreements in place now? Absolutely. It cost me my house, it cost me everything. So I've learned from that. And you know what? In the present now, I create my future. About 6 months ago, I said, you know what? I want to have a different conversation with people at a high level. And guess what? I just came back from 31 days in the States. And now I've been there twice in the last 4 months. And now I stand in front of you. So it's just a matter of learning from it. In the future, guess what? It's what you make of it. So please don't be under this whole influence that you can't change your future because you can. Now let's look at it as an attitude, as a process, right? And here's what I do with my business clients. Most people, by the way, if you meet them, how many people, just to show of hands, how many people know people that have got, the glass is half empty attitude? Show of hands. Do those guys kill you or what? I mean, it's like, man, I told you, the guy, we only won 250,000. So some people, by the way, when they're down here, they're down permanently. I can't work with those because they've made a decision already not to be helped. Some people in your family, friends, business partners, colleagues, work employees have made the decision not to be helped. So I tell you one thing, please don't waste your time trying to help them because they've just made that decision unconsciously or consciously. And then you've got people that are down temporarily. What I do is I help people at least get to the baseline because from the baseline I can only look up. Now, as an apologist, what I do is I help you become not only up temporarily, but help you up consistently. And most of the time, I help people do this. Now, remember I said to you, do you think that a beating is never going to come to you? You'd have your head in the sand if you think so. But guess what? Can I recover from a beating? Absolutely. Do I get them all the time? Absolutely. We do, something, a campaign that doesn't go according to scratch, things that somebody booked me, then they change their mind. But I very rarely are down permanently anymore because I stay in around these areas. Every day is a great day. I get to meet people, I get to hang out with people, and guess what? I get to help them, inspire them and do the best thing in their life. So it's important to understand with your attitude which way you want to go. Now, I wanted to show this. Does anybody, show hands who knows the New Zealand All Blacks, right? Let me give you some stats on these guys. It's incredible. They're the only international team to win against every match opponent. They've won 75% of all games. They've played 509 and won 386 games. Just as a matter of interest, this team is the best team globally across any sporting code. Think Aussie rules, gridiron, anything that's a team sport, these guys are the best. And check this out, right? Everybody knows this. Check this out. This is attitude for you.
The All Blacks prepare to do the haka.
Is that attitude or what, right? So every day I challenge you to find out, to say, what's your attitude? And I want you to write this down. Change the way that you look at things, and the things that you look at begin to change. Change the way that you look at things, and the things that you look at begin to change. Guys, we live in the best country in the world. I can't tell you how many US people Americans want to come over here. This is the best. We've got a small population, incredible things in front of us, but guess what? If you don't change your attitude, nothing's going to change. The New Zealand All Blacks are the best sporting team globally across any type of code. Why? Because their attitude is about, they've built a culture. So if you've got more than one employee, or 2 or 3 or 4 employees, it's important about not building a team, it's about building a culture. Why? Because the culture can share attitude together and they can support people. You don't let people, that are weak, you don't cut them off, you help them come up. But some people, unfortunately, don't want to be helped, so you just need to make that decision. So attitude is ultimately important. Now, I'm inspired by JFK. In 1962, what he did is he stood and he said, we're going to the moon. And we're going to do this by the turn of the century. July 19th, 1969, we heard those famous words, the eagle has landed. Now, is that a plan or what? I mean, they had to go through all the Gemini projects, and then they had to go to the Apollo projects. They put a dog in space, a chimp in space, then humans in space, and then Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space, and they did it. They sent somebody there, and they came back 232,000 kilometers away in a thing that had more battery, less computer power than my watch has got. Is that incredible or what? I mean, for me, I don't think mankind is bound together in any way, shape, or form like that since.
So good, I still can't believe it.
It's incredible,
Don't
right?
think that went.
Well,
Show of hands, come on.
well, that's another debate, but yeah, we can have that, right? Do you see what I mean? So do you reckon he changed the way that he looked at things? Do you think we all did? We did it, guys. And you know, the humans, by the way, are the supreme being. We've been here forever, and we influence worlds. If you're in one of my 2-day workshops, you'll understand. We influence worlds, but you know what? We need to have the right attitude, and we need to have a plan. It's super important. Now, the other thing here is in business. First of all, you need to have an intent. How many of you, just a show of hands, dream about the success in their business? Show of hands. Every day I visualize what my business is going to be like. I visualize myself being on stages in the US. I visualize myself with the best people in the world, and that's who I hang out with. It's awesome. Not to be a wanker, by the way. It's not that whole thing. You know why? Because the best guys in the world are the coolest dudes ever. You know why? Because my attitude is one of gratitude. How can I serve you? I want you to write that down. Please always ask a fellow business owner or one of your clients, how can I be of service to you? If you want to kill a business, be of service to other people. It's really important. The second component in my work in Apology, which I'm going to give away a couple of copies of the book, that's why I've asked everyone to put a card in there, is strategy is super important. In other words, I said to you, it's important to have a strategy from A to B and all the way through to Z. How many people here have got a business plan? Show of hands. 40%, 50% of you. Right? It makes sense, and I'm pretty sure Steve's going to be talking to you about that. Now, it doesn't have to be the Encyclopedia Britannica, it just needs to be one page. But at least you need some type of strategy to go, if plan A fails, we'll figure out plan B. Because usually, remember, you take a beating and you've got to deal with it. Now, as apologists, you've got the ability to look at strategy and go, how can I do the best of that? And most importantly, it's about discipline. Every day, I get up 4:45 in the morning and I'm disciplined. Do I feel tired? Absolutely, man. Do I travel all over? Absolutely. But at 4:45, I get up there, I meditate for 15 or 20 minutes, and it doesn't mean I'm sitting there, legs crossed and on, right? All I do is I, plug in my headphones and it's a guided visualization, nice and easy. And by the way, if everybody wants this, you can download it. It's called Omvana, O-M-V-A-N-A, O-M-V-A-N-A, and it's through Mind Valley. It's a free app for your phone. It's 20 minutes, it's really easy, there's none of this chanting, it's all really, really great, yeah? But it helps you become disciplined and focused. And it's about accountability. I want you to turn to the person next to you and say this. I give you permission to keep me accountable this weekend. And give me a kiss. Don't worry about that. Right? So in other words, you need a plan. This is really powerful. Failing to plan is planning to fail, guys. You need some type of a plan. You can't just allow, whatever to run your business. It's really hard. You can't allow whatever to run your life. You need some level of plan. Yeah? Now, remember, third one, it's about work. So the clearer you are by setting goals, the easier it is for you to not only work, set the plan and be accountable. How many show of hands, how many people are, have got written goals here? 60%, very good. Everybody that doesn't, write your goals down. Super easy. The next thing is, it's about mastery. In other words, what I do in my business is I try to be that good at it that I become consciously competent and unconsciously competent. So if you're at a business and you've got the shiny object syndrome, right? And you're always looking for things to do, guess what? Get really good at one thing Master it until it becomes second nature, and there you go. How many people drive a manual car here? Remember the first time that you hopped in, you bloody bunny up it, trying to figure it out which gear am I in, engine. But now, right, I'm eating a sandwich, talking on the phone thing, driving at school, right, I can do that, no problem. Does everybody get it? I've become consciously competent at that, and unconsciously competent, no problem. It's the same in business. Once you get to that level, certain things happen, and what you start to do is you start to understand that through your choice, you begin the process of evolution. In my book, the principle on evolution means that you find purpose. And purpose doesn't mean that you need to go and sit on a mountain and, Om Shanti and all that stuff. You can find purpose in your business. I love what I do. You know what my purpose is? Is to serve others. I'm clear about that, super clear about that. And the way that I did it, I ask you to think about this exercise. Look in your past and join the dots. What are the things that you've always done in life? Has it been in service of others? Has it been in product? Has it been in, some way, shape or form in helping others? I studied with a Buddhist monk for 6 months, and he said there's two things that we all have in common as humans. Number one is that we feel pain. In other words, we feel mental pain because we're not in control of our mind. And number two is that something or somebody is responsible for everything that we have, our clothes, the ground that we're on, the ceiling that's over our head, over our head, food, whatever it is. So when you're in the presence of another human being, I ask you this. Bow your head in submission because that human is exactly you. So it's important to understand that as business owners, your influence is huge. My nephew, 1,500 people, and he thought he wasn't anybody special. Imagine if you're a business owner, what your clients are saying to their friends, to their friends, to their friends, to their friends. So I share with you, now you've got a choice as an apologist to draw a line in the sand, change your attitude, change the way that you look at things, and the things that you look at begin to change. Now, I want you to think about this. Getting knocked down in life is pretty much standard. It's just a choice of whether you get back up and keep moving. I mean, Zig Ziglar influenced millions and millions of people around the world. And it's amazing. So I want to just recap this. Remember, it's about attitude. It's about understanding whether you become a victim or a victor. Plan. Failing to plan is planning to fail and work. Right? There's no substitute for it to do the hard work. If you want to be successful in business, I work with some of the best that there are. And every single time it's about keep on doing something, keep on moving forward, one step in front of the other. Now, I want to share with you that it's really important. I want to share with you that you've got the ability, and I'd like to take from this, how many people have seen the movie Goodfellas? I love it. When Ray Liotta comes in, this is a guy that's on the wrong side of the tracks. And he wants to be something. Even though he wants to be a gangster, he wants to be mating, he wants to do something. And he stands at the front of his house and he knocks on the door and he's hanging out in his chrome suit, looks like a chrome suit. And he walks in, remember I said to you, there's always things in life that try to beat you down. And his dad starts speaking to him and he slaps him across the face and he keeps on beating him down. Why? Because some people are just pissed off in life at your success. And that's just the way it's always going to be. But what he does is he comes back up and he says, the way I see it, sooner or later everybody takes a beating. It's what you do. Let me share with you guys, sooner or later you're going to take a beating, but it's what you do from that. And I want to share with you that you've got the ability to change things for the incredible. There's no greater success or no greater joy and privilege than to be in business for yourself. You know why? Because you make the rules. And as apologists, that having the ability to make all the rules is everything. Why? Because now you've got a choice. You can either A, become a victim or become a victor. You can change the way that you look at things and the things that you look at begin to change. But most importantly, you can start to change your life, the lives around you, be in service of others, if you just look at life on the outside. Thank you. So I just want to share with you, if you go to apologybook.com there, you can order my book. I'm going to give you the book absolutely free of charge, because I said I would for you guys here. The only thing I ask you to pay for is postage and handling. That's about $6. The book's free. So if you go there, you can order it. Check me out there. Nick Psaila is my Facebook page. And I want to give 2 copies away with that. So has everybody put a business card in in here? Yeah, so can I get you to draw one there? He's going to draw his one. So that's Emily Bobler. Very good. Cool. One more. Give her a hand, by the way. And Tiv.
Oh, go Tiv.
Fantastic. So, have we got any more time, Steve, or out? Or?
Mate, we've probably got another couple of minutes, but
Right.
what about if we all get up on our feet and give Nick a big round of applause? Very good, that's excellent. So we're probably going to spend five minutes or so.
Maybe Q&A or?
Yeah. Let's throw it at you guys to ask a few questions. I don't know, good how to start off with. I was absolutely enthralled and just listening to that story, really emotional, and that the message lands of I don't know, just getting up.
Just get back up, right? I mean, guys, it's. By the way, in the book, it's an entire methodology on how you live your life and how you can run your business. I've shared this with guys all over the world, and the feedback's been amazing. It's not because I wrote it; it's just because if you're authentic with yourself, and you put down things that you believe are true and things that you believe are working, people today see through that. As a business owner, remember I said to you, if you can be up, if you can put a smile on your face, if you've got the ability to change somebody's life today, what are you waiting for? Business, regardless of what success is. Money, by the way, anybody that thinks money is success is bloody dreaming. Money is just but one component of the byproduct of what success is. Does everybody get this? I work with hundreds of businesses, and the common thread always is trying to do with their beatings. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to expand on this for a second. If you don't deal with the beating that you've taken, most of the times it reflects in your business. And here's an example. How many people have done a marketing campaign that hasn't really gone according to what they thought it was going to do? Have you ever noticed when you go to do another marketing campaign similar to that or something a bit different, have you noticed that you've got that little pause of hesitancy? Has anybody got that? You go, man, I don't know if this is going to be exactly the same. Well, guess what? That's the remnants of a beating, because you've taken it and you think that defines you. Could I have let that 13-year-old define me? Could I have let Brother John define me? He said, I was going to do nothing. I speak on stages all over the world. Guess what that dickhead's doing? Hopefully 6 foot under. Does everybody get this? So do you see, I can either be, you can leave it there or you can move through that. Once you start to work on that, you start to understand what your purpose is for your business, guess what? Your marketing should be along with what your purpose is about. You know why? Because your tribe of people are exactly looking for that. I'm going to leave you with something, especially in marketing, and especially around this. It's important to tell your story. Why? Because if you think that people are just coming to you for a service or for a product, think again. Have you ever bought something off someone that was just the wrong guy to buy it off? Has anybody ever done that? Even if they give it to you for free, the next time you go, mate, don't worry about it. Because it wasn't a great experience. Is everybody getting this? So guess what? Every time that you open your doors, if you're thinking negatively, if you're looking at the downside of everything, if you're having a shitty day, if you're not putting a smile on your face and you're not thinking up, as all apologists now, do you think that you're influencing that person? So guess what people are buying from you as business owners? They're buying the experience to buy from you. Because they want to be like you. They want to go on your journey with your business. Look at it, Richard Branson, any of these big guys that you showed before. It's really going on their journey. Don't you love it? From rags to riches. It's incredible, right? So I honour all of you. I thank you for taking the time out, because for me this means everything. I get to share my story.
But it's brilliant. I think we enjoyed it too, didn't we? Yeah.
I'm going to stick around for a bit if you're having a break. Anybody wants to come up, and I'll get this book signed. Everybody else, like I said, hop online and grab it. Guys, it's a great read. If you don't like it, I'll give you $6 back.
Anybody got any questions for Nick? Just while we're here, yeah. On the microphone, Danny Grant.
Thanks, Nick, for this morning. You mentioned about drawing a line in the sand, and you said like 5 years ago you drew your line. Can you just tell us a little bit how you came to that? how you flip.
That's a great question. So what I did was this. So now I'm completely broke, trying to figure it out, right? The whole world's kind of shuttered. And I said this. I said, I've done this before. I mean, I used to be in the automotive industry for like 15 years. I've had, multi-million dollars of property, being in businesses that we've done great with, but businesses that we've lost as well. And I said, you know what? I mean, when something like that happens, you turn into this little crybaby for a bit. And I'm feeling sorry for myself. Smoking lots of weed and stuff, and I'm just hanging out. And not doing much, what do I do? And I remember this thing, and someone just said to me, Nick, you've got a family. What the hell are you thinking? Right? So in other words, I want to share with you, what changed it for me was leverage. And I said to my son, remember I was telling you, and I said to my wife, never again will I do this. You know why? Because it's not to have any money, I can tell you that. You know how people go, the root of all evils having money? I reckon it's the other way around, isn't it? I've been with money and I've been without. Let me tell you, the without sucks more than the with, right? So for me, the defining moment, that came to me was, I said, how are my children going to look at me? As this guy that got consumed by beating? I can tell you my sister's still consumed by that beating, to be expected. Every day it tries to get better, every day. But now she's looking forward because she's got a new grandson and everything else. So the defining moment for me was I looked at my son, and my daughter was then born, and I said, for me, you know what, it's time for me to change. So I got educated. Here's the most important thing, guys, in business. Every mistake or so-called mistake that you have is actually a life event. And it always gives you a T-junction to go, you can either go left or you can go right. It's up to you what you want to do with it. So what I did is I needed to get educated. I said, well, I didn't know enough about business, or else I would have put a procedure in place that's no problem. And you know why I didn't do it, by the way? How many people are in business with their mates? Show hands. Mates, anyone? How many people are in business in partnership? Have you got a partnership agreement? You know why? We were tight. You can imagine, I hung out with him like 100 hours a week. And guess what? Don't worry, mate, he's never going to do that. Don't worry, mate. I come back, he's waiting for me to come back, and bang. So you know the worst part about that, by the way, just thought I'd share this with everyone. I lost a friend. And that's the worst thing, because then it becomes like a bit of taste in your mouth. And if you think it's not going to happen to you, guys, think again. So for me, the defining moment was to go, I've got leverage. And I ask you, what's your leverage? It's important. Does that answer that?
Yes, sir.
Brilliant, good answer. Anybody else got a question? Johnny.
You, Johnny.
Just on, I guess like one of the biggest quotes I kind of that really like hits a note with me is not to, when things get hard, is not change the goal, change the plan. Did you ever like have a goal as such, or you kind of like as an oncologist, did you set that goal and then not necessarily go to plan, but change the plan to get there? Or
Yeah, very much so. That's a great question. So I want you to think about it like this, right? So when the moon is a perfect thing. When they did it, I mean, I was just checking out some DVDs yesterday on the moon. I mean, the amount of struggle that they had to do in order to get the man mission on the moon. I mean, they circled the moon 3 times with 3 different spacecraft, and then they landed Apollo 11. Now, how does that work for me? Here's a perfect example. So 6 months ago, remember I said I'm going to have a new conversation with people at a whole new level. But the hardest thing was for me to get to the States. So how do I do it? I've got all my clients here and I need to get out to the States. So the first attempt, that didn't work because, the sums didn't add up. And then the second attempt I had to kind of change. I went there and I came back again. And then I had to figure out a plan to go, how do I subsidise my living in order to go over there? So the way that clients work with me is they work with me for 6 to 12 months on an agreement, right? So in other words, what I had to do was, change it and adjust it that I'm also doing coaching. So while I was in the States, I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning coaching my clients here because of the hour. So to answer your question, absolutely. I mean, I wrote the book. I wrote the book a year ago. My goal for this book was to be on my birthday, which is 25th of June to 1968 is when I was born, but to be ready. It was a year later, over a year later. So I had to adjust it, but the goal was finish the bloody book and get it out. Has anybody written a book, by the way? Mate, let me tell you, get somebody else to write it for you. It's a lot easier. You just narrate it, it's a lot easier, right? But it's that. So yes, I mean, for me, this will be an Amazon bestseller. because I've got a strategy and a plan for it to become that way. Does that make sense? However, along those lines, I mean, even people that have said, no, I need to advertise like this, we've had to change it. So, and that's why I'm saying with strategy, guys, regardless of what business that you're in, you need to keep on calculating differently because things change. How many people, I mean, knew that the GFC was coming? I mean, we thought we did, but then it came. I mean, if you're in retail right now, retail's a bit tough, right? So things change. Have you ever noticed? David Jones and companies like that, what they did is, oh, don't worry about the online, don't worry about the online, don't worry about the online. Shit, we've got to start worrying about the online, everybody's online, and now they're 5 years behind the time. Have you seen that? So what they did is they never adjusted. Have you noticed the Dimmicks that sells books, right? There's less bookstores, and who's the giant now? It's Amazon, isn't it? You know why? Because for 5 years, Amazon was planning online while Dimmicks was opening up big bookshops everywhere and made them look good, and they laughed at Amazon, mate, who's got the last laugh now? So if you're in business, by the way, if you're not online, guys, you've got to be online. And you know what? 6 billion people today have got mobile technology. So if you've got a website and it's not mobile capable, you're a bloody dinosaur. You've got to change it because it's coming. So does that answer your question? So yes, adjust. Test and measure is the critical component.
Brilliant, good answer. And that's why I've got so much respect for people in this room as well, because with technology and things evolving all the time, if you're not in a room like this, it doesn't have to be this room, but I prefer if it was.
Yeah.
If you're not in a room similar to this, how are you going to know what's changing and how to adapt?
Completely.
Yeah. Okay, one last question.
I think it's not really a question, it's just to elaborate. You were talking about Jack Kennedy when he said his dream was, we want to go to the moon. Not because it's
Easy, but because it's hard. And it's not for us, but it's for all mankind.
Yeah.
Completely. That's a great analysis. Guys, is show of hands how many people think that business is easy? You know, guess what? If it was easy, it would be called easy, isn't it? It's called business, and I think it's called busyness. It's not for everyone. Do you see how much of a gift that you guys all have? Do you see? It's incredible, right? Every day I go, I'm in business for myself, or I could be in business for somebody else and make them rich. It's up to you what you want to do, make a choice. But for me, I run my own race. I'm technically unemployable. You know why? Because I want to do what I like to do. I want to hang out with the people that I want to do, and I don't want the boss telling me that you've got 30 minutes for a lunch break. You can have the business that you want, is that right? You know how many people go, mate, I'm busy all the time, how am I going to, mate, close the shop and just go down the beach for half an hour. I guarantee you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. Why can't you set your business up that it doesn't open between 12 and 3 in the afternoon? Why can't you? Is there any rule that says that you can't unless you're a hospital? Is there any rule? There isn't. Guess what? They do it in Europe, don't they? Right, I land in Malta, I'm like, where the hell is everybody? Everybody's having a siesta. So I figured it out. What I did between 12 and 3, I went for the siesta. Do you see what I mean? Like, unfortunately, the conveniences are it's 24/7. Have you ever noticed, what did we do before Westfield? We actually went and hung out at the beach or out at parks with people. Do you see, guys? I'm so inspired. I feel electric that I can help share you guys. And by the way, Steve, I mean, this guy's like the light in the darkness. You know how hard it is to try and put on an event like this? It's killer, right? Getting all you guys here doing the right thing. Have a look at the room. It's beautiful. And he's got some of the best speakers in Australia down here hanging out with you guys. It's awesome. Actually, why don't we all stand and give him a hand, right?
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
So can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Guys, everybody here that's put a business card in, is it okay if I sort of put you on my email thing so I can send you out some cool stuff? I've got some, cool events and stuff. Is that cool? Anyone not want to do that? Bad luck, so you guys are all. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
That's awesome.